Hello, welcome to Secret Zone. Subscribe and turn on notifications for stories you won't forget. I never imagined that the life I had built with my wife could suddenly feel like it was built on lies. From the moment we met, everything seemed perfect to our friendship, our laughter, the way she could make even the darkest day feel bright. We fell in love slowly, naturally, as if the universe itself had designed us for each other. And soon, we were married, celebrating the beginning of a new life together. We had our little son, the center of our world, and for years, I believed we had everything anyone could ever dream of. Trust, love, and happiness. But one ordinary day, a simple phone call, an unexpected message, a shadow in her smile made me question everything. Was the life I cherished really the truth? Or had I been blind, seeing only what I wanted to see? That moment, that one whisper of doubt, changed everything. What seemed like a normal evening turned into a storm of confusion, suspicion, and heartache. And as I listened to her words, I realized that behind her gentle voice and reassuring smiles, there was a story I could never have imagined, a story that would challenge everything I thought I knew about my wife, our marriage, and the life we were building together. This is the moment my world shifted, the moment I understood that love sometimes hides secrets darker than we could ever expect, and that the truth about the person you trust most can shake you to your core. The first time I saw her, it felt like the world had quietly paused around me. She wasn't loud, flashy, or demanding attention, but there was a calm in her presence that drew me in without warning. Her smile was gentle, yet it carried a warmth that seemed to seep into the very corners of my heart. I remember thinking, almost foolishly, that a person like her couldn't exist in the chaos of my life. Yet here she was, and for the first time, everything felt right. We met under ordinary circumstances, but the connection we felt was anything but ordinary. Every conversation, every shared laugh, every moment we spent together built a foundation that neither of us fully realized would become the bedrock of our lives. As our friendship grew, I noticed the way she cared not just for me, but for everyone around her. She had a rare kindness, the kind that healed invisible wounds and inspired trust effortlessly. And somewhere along the way, friendship blossomed into something more, something deeper than I had ever felt before. The first time I truly recognized it as love, I couldn't speak, couldn't move, and yet I knew I would follow her anywhere. Our courtship was simple but magical. We didn't need grand gestures or expensive dates. A walk in the park, a shared cup of coffee, a quiet evening talking about everything and nothing. Those moments were enough. I cherished the way she listened to me, the way her eyes softened when I spoke about my dreams, and how she seemed genuinely invested in every detail of my life. Slowly, our hearts intertwined, creating a bond that felt unbreakable. I remember the day I finally told her I loved her. She laughed softly, teasing me at first, but the warmth in her eyes confirmed what my heart already knew. She felt the same. We were inseparable after that. Days blurred into nights, and nights into days. Yet every moment felt new, because she made everything feel alive. Then came the proposal, a quiet, intimate moment, far from the prying eyes of the world. I didn't need a ring in a shining box or an elaborate scene. I just needed her to know how deeply I wanted her in my life. She cried, of course, and I held her as her tears soaked my shirt, and I swore silently that I would protect her, cherish her, and love her for as long as I could breathe. We married soon after, surrounded by close friends and family, but even in the midst of celebration, it felt like our world belonged only to us. Those early days of marriage were a dream, a life painted in laughter, late-night conversations, and a comforting certainty that we had found our home in each other. The first months of our married life passed like a gentle current, carrying us forward in harmony. We shared everything, from minor annoyances to our deepest fears. And then, one ordinary morning, I saw the first glimpse of the life-altering truth that was lurking quietly beneath the surface. It was subtle at first, a phone that rang a little too often, a message glanced at too quickly, a fleeting expression I didn't recognize. I dismissed it initially. After all, I had no reason to doubt her. She had always been honest, open, and transparent. I told myself it was just my imagination, a shadow of insecurity creeping in where it didn't belong. But the feeling lingered, a soft whisper of unease I couldn't shake. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers of doubt grew louder. I started noticing small inconsistencies, a name mentioned that didn't make sense, an unexplained absence, a mysterious call late at night. Each time, I confronted her, but she smiled, reassured me, and explained with a calmness that made me feel foolish for even thinking otherwise. Yet, my heart didn't quiet. Something was off. And then, one evening, everything changed. I walked into our home, expecting the familiar warmth, the comforting laughter of my wife and her little son playing in the corner. Instead, I was met with silence, a tense hush that made the hair on my arms rise. There, in the living room, was a stranger, a woman I had never seen before. She laughed lightly, flirtatiously, and my wife's expression shifted for the briefest of moments, a flicker of guilt, a flicker of fear, and something I couldn't name. The world around me slowed as I realized that the life I thought I knew, the woman I believed I had understood completely, might not be what it seemed. Questions flooded my mind. Who was she? How long had this been going on? And most terrifying of all, how much did my wife love this stranger? My heart ached, my mind raced, yet a part of me wanted to believe in the woman I had known for years. Could it be a misunderstanding? Was I jumping to conclusions? I wanted to trust her, to see the truth in her eyes. But as I watched them interact, laughed at jokes I didn't understand, and exchanged glances that I had never seen before, a knot tightened in my chest. It was in that moment I realized that love is not just about happiness, it's about truth. And sometimes, the truth hides behind smiles, behind kind words, behind years of shared memories. I had married a woman I loved with all my heart. But now I had to confront the possibility that she carried secrets so profound they could shatter everything we had built. My world teetered on the edge of disbelief, confusion, and betrayal, and I knew that the life I had believed to be perfect was about to demand courage, heart, and a strength I wasn't sure I possessed. The first scene of my unraveling began with that single glance, that single question, that single revelation. Everything after that, every laugh, every tear, every choice would define who we were, and whether love could truly survive the truth. The days after that evening felt surreal, as though I was living in a parallel world where everything familiar had suddenly shifted. I tried to talk to her, to confront her gently, but she smiled, reassured me, and spoke in words I wanted to believe. She told me it was nothing, just a misunderstanding with a friend, someone from her past who had reached out unexpectedly. My mind wanted to trust her, and yet every instinct screamed that something was wrong. I watched her more closely, noticing the little things I had ignored. Before, the way she kept her phone close, the subtle tension in her tone when certain names came up, the way her eyes darted away when I asked a simple question. I couldn't help but remember the days of our courtship, the laughter, the promises whispered under starlit skies, and the warmth of our shared dreams. How could it all be real and yet so fragile? I wanted to confront her aggressively, to demand the truth, but I also wanted to protect our son from any pain. He was too young to understand the complexities of adult emotions, and I loved him with all my heart. I realized then that this wasn't just about my feelings, it was about my family, my home, and the life we had built together. I needed clarity before acting, even if every day of waiting shredded a piece of my soul. It was during one quiet afternoon, while our son was napping, that I noticed a series of messages on her phone. She had left it on the counter, and curiosity mixed with a desperate need to know the truth got the better of me. As I scrolled through, my heart sank. There were conversations that went far beyond friendship, late-night messages, intimate words that should never have been shared, and plans made without me knowing. It was one of the hardest moments of my life. My hands shook, my chest tightened, and yet I kept reading, needing every detail. Even though every word felt like a knife twisting deeper into my heart, I confronted her again that evening. I tried to remain calm, to speak with reason, but the pain in my voice betrayed me. She looked at me, eyes wide, a mixture of surprise and sorrow. And then she did something I didn't expect. She didn't deny it. Instead, she explained herself, her voice trembling, her words a mixture of fear and guilt. She said it wasn't what it seemed, that it had started long before we married, and that she had ended it when she realized how much she loved me. I wanted to believe her. I wanted desperately to believe that the woman I had married, the mother of my child, was still the same person I fell in love with. And for a while, I did. We cried, we argued, and then we tried to talk like the life we had built wasn't a line. But deep down, the doubt lingered, a shadow that refused to disappear. We decided to attend counseling together, to rebuild the trust that had been shaken. There were days when it felt like we could conquer anything, moments when our laughter returned and our connection felt unbroken. Yet, every text, every call, every unexplained absence reminded me that life doesn't reset. Our son remained blissfully unaware of the storm, and seeing him play, his innocent laughter filling the house, made me realize that love was not just a feeling, it was a responsibility. I wanted to protect him, to maintain the family we had, even as I questioned everything. And then, one evening, a call came from an unknown number. She hesitated before picking up, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Her expression shifted subtly, the way it had the night I first saw her with that stranger. My heart raced as I realized the truth I had been dreading might not be contained. The voice on the other end was calm, familiar, and yet it carried a weight I could not place. It was a man, polite but insistent, speaking in measured words that seemed carefully chosen. He said nothing overtly threatening, but his presence was a reminder that the life my wife and I shared had threads reaching into unknown territories. I demanded to know who he was, why he was calling, and what he wanted. My wife's face went pale, and in that moment, the tension in the room was unbearable. It turned out he was someone from her past, someone who had been part of her life before me, and who had resurfaced unexpectedly. She explained that it was entirely harmless, that he sought only closure, and that nothing had happened between them since she met me. I wanted to believe her. Truly they, but my mind, scarred by the previous revelations, refused to accept simple explanations. Every word he spoke, every detail she shared, was filtered through the lens of my fear and doubt. In the following days, I observed her more closely than ever. Every interaction, every message, every subtle shift in behavior became a piece of a puzzle I was desperate to solve. I realized that love was no longer blind. It required attention, patience, and an acceptance that sometimes the truth was not what you wanted it to be. And as difficult as it was, I began to see her not just as the woman who had betrayed me in ways I had imagined, but as the mother of our child, the partner I still loved, and the person who had chosen me despite the mistakes of her past. We started spending more intentional time together, small dates, long conversations, and honest discussions about our fears, hopes, and expectations. Slowly, I noticed that the cracks in our relationship were not insurmountable. They were painful, yes, but not impossible to mend. I began to understand that forgiveness was not about erasing the past. It was about acknowledging it, learning from it, and choosing to move forward. And she, too, showed me through her actions that love was not just words, it was commitment, effort, and honesty. One rainy evening, as we watched our son play with the puddles outside, I realized that our family, our bond, was stronger than the secrets that had tried to break us. It wasn't perfect, and it never would be, but it was real. And sometimes, reality with all its flaws, mistakes, and uncertainties was far more beautiful than any illusion of perfection I could have imagined. Months passed, and life settled into a fragile but resilient rhythm. I learned to trust her again, not blindly, but with cautious hope. We celebrated our son's milestones together, laughed at silly moments, and created new memories that slowly began to outweigh the painful ones. I discovered that love was not about never being hurt, it was about choosing to stay, even when the heart trembled with fear. Then, one evening, a letter arrived in the mail, handwritten, simple, and sincere. It was from the man who had called earlier. He apologized for any pain caused and acknowledged the life she had built with me. The letter, surprisingly, brought a strange sense of closure. I realized that some truths, when confronted directly, lose their power to harm. And in that moment, I saw my wife clearly, not as a woman of mistakes, but as a human being who had loved, erred, and chosen to stay with the family she had built. We shared a quiet night together, talking about everything: the past, the present, and our hopes for the future. She took my hand, looked into my eyes, and whispered words I had longed to hear. That despite everything, she loved me, and that she would continue to choose our life together every single day. And as I held her close, I realized that love, true love, was not about perfection. It was about resilience, trust, forgiveness, and a willingness to face the storms together. Life is unpredictable. It throws challenges we never anticipate, tests our patience, our faith, and our hearts. My journey with my wife taught me that even when the truth is hard, even when it shakes you to your core, there is a way forward. Love isn't an easy path. It requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to forgive. Our son played in the corner, laughter filling the room, and I knew that our story, with all its twists and trials, had given us a deeper connection, a stronger family, and a love that was real and perfect and enduring. Sometimes, the greatest revelations don't destroy us. They transform us. And for us, the truth behind my wife, though painful, became the foundation of a love stronger than ever before. Like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for watching Secret Zone.